Wishes well doing and welcome back to After They Found Atlantis. It's been a while. Check my new place out. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, I moved. But I'm back for y'all. Today we're talking about the truth about Atlantis and the real Plato. We are going to recap part 1 and speak about what this idea means if it were true. The idea that there's a truth about Atlantis and that there is a real Plato. What is the truth about Atlantis? The truth is it was actual history, because the real Plato never created this conversation that had to do with Atlantis. He, like his other writings, documented them down and preserved them because of his devotion to Socrates. Now, why do we think this of Plato? Because Plato says it himself, out of his own words, in 2 of his letters, letter number 2 and letter number 7, where Plato says he would never write any treatise, and those which now bear his name belong to a Socrates, become fair and young. Why is it that we believe that the dialogues are telling us the truth that have to do with Atlantis? Because everything in the dialogues that can be proven to be true, guess what? Can be proven to be true. Let's look at some examples. The dialogues explain perfectly the geography of the Mediterranean, having a small entrance, and it is not the true sea. The true sea is the Atlantic Ocean. So the dialogues describe and know about the Atlantic Ocean. What else do the dialogues describe? The dialogues describe the opposite continent from Europe, which is the Americas. Now, how would Plato know about that? Not only does he know about Europe and the geography of the Mediterranean, but he knows that Greece 10,000 years ago was a full landmass that once was, that were wasted away because of all the flooding and the rise of the sea levels. The dialogues also talk about the city of Sais in Egypt. This city is important because this is where the records of Atlantis were held. And the city is 10,000 years old, according to the dialogues, and was founded by the goddess Neith. Who is the goddess Neith? The goddess Neith is Athena. The Egyptians just have a different name for her. She founded this city 10,000 years ago. And this is why the records of Atlantis were there, because the city had been there so long. Well, why had the city been there so long? It's because of the city's location. It had never been flooded. It had never been blown up by volcanoes. It's the perfect location. All those years went by. Thousands and thousands of years went by before Solon's visit, and the records were still there at that time, which would be roughly 2,600 years ago from today. What does mainstream archaeology know about the city of Sais? What have they found? Well, they have found that the city goes back to the Neolithic period. So far, it's 6,500 years old from today. 6,500 years old. At the very beginning of all Egyptian history, the very first queen of Egypt was Queen Neith-Hotep. And Queen Neith-Hotep ruled from the city of, guess where? Sais, or Sais. She was ruling there at that time, at the very beginning, the very first dynasty, dynasty number 1. This is the first dynasty. The pyramids were supposedly built in the 4th dynasty in all of Egyptian history. Okay, this goes back a long ways. What you may think is incredibly ancient history of Egypt. Before the Great Pyramids, before King Tut, before Akhenaten, before all this was Queen Neith-Hotep. And Neith the goddess they worshipped from the city of Sais. And it was real history that was recorded down by the disciples and followers of Socrates. Go back and watch the very first video. Go back and watch part 1 of The Truth About Atlantis and the Real Plato, and you can learn all about how the dialogues weren't made up. Plato did not make the dialogues up. He preserved them. Atlantis was flooded 11,600 years ago. There was great floods at that time. Melt pulse water bee event 11,600 years ago. This is when Atlantis is described as where there was a flood, a great flood that sunk the island in one day and night. And this lines up with actual history. Check that box. It talks about mankind being reduced to a small population, barely surviving, and forgetting all of the history that they knew at the time, and to having to start all over again like children. Why would Plato make Socrates, make Solon, make Critias all lie about Atlantis? He makes them say in the dialogues that Atlantis is a real place. It's fact, not fiction. Why? Why would he make them lie? Why would he make them say that it's real when it's not? I think it's because the dialogues were a real conversation and not something Plato made up. Another evidence of this is in the Phaedo, written by Plato. Socrates' last day on earth. Who was all there? The other person says, so-and-so was there, so-and-so was there. But Plato was not there. He was ill. But Plato was not there. He was ill. So in other words, Plato wrote the book on it, told you everything that happened that day, but then said, oh, I wasn't there. I wasn't there, but I'm going to tell you all about it. Why would he do that? That makes no sense. That's a question you can ask your philosophy teacher. After Socrates' death, Plato fled Athens because being a disciple of Socrates, the man they just killed, because of all the things that he did that the people voted him to death because of all the things that happened to the city. Again, watch part 1. So he fled. Okay, it was turbulent. It was a turbulent city, turbulent times. All of the disciples left. It took him 10 years before he went back. And then what does he do, according to mainstream archaeology and mainstream academia? He starts writing his dialogues about Socrates, his beloved Socrates, and just creating them out of thin air. And he starts entitling them the Alcibiades, the Critias. They were the ones that got Socrates killed because of all their actions. Hey everybody, it's my new book. It's called I'm Back in Town. I just wrote a book called Critias. Remember him? He was one of the 30 tyrants that killed all your family. They killed 5% of the population. Come check out my new releases. To me, it doesn't make any sense that he would entitle all these books about people that had such a bad name, and then write about the most intimate details of all these characters that they say characters in the books. All the characters, saying like Socrates loved Alcibiades, really passionate, talking about this kind of like deep personal things about people in his own time. I don't think he would do that. I don't think anybody would write about personal things of people, the contemporaries of people in their own time, saying they love this and they love this person and they love that person. What explains this is that, again, it's not something Plato made up. These are actual conversations that the actual people had, actual historical figures, which there are almost all historical figures in the dialogues. We get a lot of our history that we understand from the dialogues themselves. That is accepted history. What's not accepted is the tale of Atlantis, because it doesn't fit in to what is taught in school. It doesn't fit in with accepted history. The main thing I want to talk about is how this changes our view of history. If you're looking for Atlantis, The funny thing is that it was right here all the time. It was written down for us. It's telling us. The book is telling us right there. The dialogues are telling us everything about Atlantis and more. All this other history that is accepted history. The dialogues tell us that mankind could be in trouble because it's a cyclical history. This is why this is important that we look at what the dialogues are telling us, because it's something we can look out for and know about our real past and know about our real future. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, and peace out.